Hi, I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Sophie, and we are here to help guide you to the why behind your wellness why.
Come join us on our journey.
Hi, Chelsea.
Hey, Sophie.
We are going to talk about how to handle a social summer.
I cannot believe summer is here. It's June, and I really don't know where May went. It went so fast. It went by so fast.
It did. And weather was like, now I'm here, now I'm not, but I hope it's here to stay.
Yeah, how is the weather in Chicago?
Girl, it's sunny and 75 today.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so nice.
Yep. How's it there?
Hot. It's like in the 90s. And yeah, hot, hot,
Die.
hot. Yeah. Yeah. This morning when I left to go to the gym, it was 8 a.m. and already 77 degrees. My car was reading.
Dang, that's crazy.
It's getting hot, hot, hot. Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, we are going to talk about reframing your goals in the summer months because we know how there's travel, bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, 4th of July, there was just Memorial Day, and obviously it's, barbecue, all these things. But just to give some fitness examples is how you can reframe your goals for these summer months can be maintaining strength, if that's a goal, obviously, or maintaining your weight, if that's a goal. Like, you do not always have to be progressing. Sometimes our society is so stuck with always getting better. And sometimes we can just coast and chill and maintain, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I love that because you're exactly right. I think we live in a society where we're always trying to do better. And sometimes gaining strength or losing weight or whatever your goal is, that's not always doing better. Sometimes you have to reassess with what's going on in your lifestyle. And honestly, that's partially why lifestyle is in my business name, because you want to always focus your nutrition and your exercise around what's going on with your lifestyle. So summer is always a really great time to reassess your goals. And that does not mean give up on your goals. That does not mean to completely put your goals to the wayside. And unfortunately, I see that a lot. That's exactly what happens is, as humans, we have a very all or nothing mindset where we are either all in or all out. And summertime can really be that time, as you had said, Sophie, where we just coast. And for some people, like, maybe you have a lighter summer. Maybe summer is a time where you can focus on gaining strength or losing weight or changing body composition. But for some people, if you have a lot of travel or vacations or weddings or social events or whatever it might be, now might be a really good time to take a step back and just reassess, what do I even want to be working on this summer? And that doesn't mean giving up your goals. It's just refocusing them and reframing them.
I'm really glad you said that about the all or nothing. And we have a previous podcast on that one, but it's so true. Like, another thing I wanted to talk about is, sure, if you can't work out for an hour because you have dinner with friends and you need to cut your workout short, like, that's okay. You can still get a solid 30-minute workout in, or you can go for like a run walk instead if you're into that, and like move your week around and strength train another day. Like, just because you don't have the perfect amount of time to do something active doesn't mean I can't do anything, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah. And nutrition, I think we'll go into specific examples, but it's the exact same thing. I talk with my clients a lot, specifically on traveling. So, let's take a bachelorette party, for example. That's a really, really challenging one where you might be with a group of women or men, depending on whose bachelorette or bachelor party it is. And you might not have any control over where you're staying, what you're eating, what's in the house, all of that type of stuff. But things that you might have control over is, for example, how much water you're drinking. Did you pack snacks to take with you? I think there's a difference between, again, as we were saying with goals, like an all or nothing mindset, but that can also go into your habits. Just because you're traveling doesn't mean every single thing has to go to the wayside. Sophie and I talk a lot about the foundations of health and things like getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, all of that type of stuff can then help you when you get back, just maintain those other habits. So it's okay if you're not exercising consistently for a period of time or eating perfectly or being in control of every single thing that's going into your mouth. But it's like looking at the whole picture of like, what are those foundational habits that I can work on?
I'm glad you said the packing snacks thing because I'm such a weirdo. When I go on trips, including a bachelorette trip I had last summer and like ski ones that I go on in the winter, I pack perfect bars and usually like a bag of trail mix, just even for snacks. Because say you're in a hotel, not even an Airbnb, usually you're only eating meals. And I like to snack on something.
Mhm.
And I mean, I guess you can buy some there, but it's just so much easier to just bring your own. You have it in your room, especially if you like you don't have a kitchen, something just easy.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of travel snacks, not only for travel. So that's definitely one. Like, I've had different times people say, well, like, I don't even have time to snack. Like, again, a bachelorette's a great example where you might be hopping around all day or doing something that then you might not even have access to snacks or want to snack. Sometimes we don't want to snack. I like to snack. I'm the same way as you, Sophie. I snack all the time, but there's some people who don't. But even with like just the travel alone, so, thinking about when is your flight? I've had so many flights that are over breakfast or lunch or dinner, and I don't want to pay $30 for a average airport meal, or I don't want to pay $15 for a huge bag of nuts or whatever the situation might be. But you have just way more control over what you can bring, buying pre-portioned things just to help with things not going to waste, portion control, all of that type of stuff. I have a good reference on some of my favorite travel snacks on my Instagram, I think it's on. So that's a really good one to bookmark because it has some of my favorite brands of things that you can take with you that are easily travelable, that don't need refrigeration, that are pre-portioned, all of that good stuff. So, like Sophie said, whether it be having it throughout the day or just keeping in your hotel room, a lot of times, especially in hotels, they might not include breakfast or you might not be there for breakfast. So, even having like a breakfast option is always good. So, yes, I'm a huge fan of packing snacks too.
So, Chelsea, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
How would you handle like eating at like a barbecue? What would you prioritize or
A
something like that?
really good question. Yeah. So, that's that time of year, right? We're having barbecues and social events and all of this. And I think some of these tips can be for if you're going to a social event where like people are cooking or also eating out. Not all of these apply to eating out, but some of them do. So, my number one thing, especially when you're going somewhere where people are bringing their own food, is always be selfish in this situation. I guess I should say first, bring something that you like and that you will be confident in eating. So again, I'm not saying you can't splurge or you have to bring something healthy, but a lot of times one of the biggest things that I hear, and I can relate to this too, is going somewhere and they're like not being anything even remotely healthy. But if you have the ability to provide something that sounds good to you that maybe is a little bit more health conscious. So this could be as simple as a fruit tray or a veggie tray or some type of dip that can be served with veggies or fruits or something a little bit lighter, something along those lines. There's lots of different options, but those are just some easy ones. And I think the other challenge is a lot of times people don't want to be that person to like bring the veggie tray or the fruit tray or whatever, but people always enjoy them.
So one of my clients was just at a Memorial Day party and she grows her own lettuce in her backyard. So her and her husband brought lettuce with like fresh radishes and this huge bowl. It was like one of the only things that like the bowl was nearly licked clean because it was like so fresh and good.
Yeah. And especially summer is the time, like a lot of produce is in season. It tastes better. If it's really hot out, something fresh and cold tastes really good. So again, I'm not saying that's all you have to eat. I'm not even saying you have to bring that, but that's one thing one tip I always say is if you are going somewhere, don't be nervous to bring something that you enjoy and don't be nervous to bring something that is nutrient dense because usually a lot of times people do genuinely enjoy that. So that's a little bit more, of course, for like if it's actually at an event. But in terms of just a couple of tips, whether again it be at a barbecue or eating out, number one, I think, is focusing on why you're there. So much of social events is based around food, but if you're finding that food is overcoming your thoughts, taking a step back and really being mindful of the social aspect of it. So, if you're at a cookout and you're with a bunch of people, as simple as just like not standing by the food table. I know that sounds so simple and so easy, but if you're standing there, you're going to continue to graze. It's going to become mindless eating. And again, not saying that you can't have that food. It's just like, it's sometimes we're just eating and eating and eating and not even recognizing that it's happening. So being mindful of that. Sophie, you're laughing.
Because I'm always by the table and I know I'm eating and I just like, ooh, one more handful of chips. Ooh, another handful of chips.
Yeah. So just being mindful about that in terms of, again, because I think a lot of times, not to say eating chips is bad, but we then leave and just feel so blah, like we just don't feel good. And yeah, so it cannot be fun. But that's one tip is just being mindful of like where you're sitting, where you're standing, all of that type of stuff. And then in terms of what you're actually eating, and this again can go more towards if you are eating out or at a social event, but let's talk about like actually what's on your plate. So, as simple as being mindful of thinking about that basic plate method, which I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about, but thinking about the balance of is there carbs on your plate? Is there protein? Is there color on your plate? Thinking about the mix of things, especially at restaurants and especially at cookouts, it's very, very easy to get a whole plate of carbs. Even thinking at a restaurant, like you have the basket of bread or tortilla chips and salsa. And then you get like a Mexican restaurant's a great example where you have the chips and salsa, and then you have a big plate with like rice and beans and tortillas and all of this type of stuff. And before you know it, it's like you've just eaten all of these carbs and not balanced it out at all with protein or healthy fats or veggies or anything like that. As everybody knows, disclaimer, Sophie and I are huge fans of carbs. So we are not saying to not eat carbs, but it can just really, really, really help out when you're balancing it. It can help to balance your blood sugar, not spike your blood sugar, not drop your blood sugar, help give you balanced energy, all of that good stuff.
I just thought of such a good tip. I only started doing the last couple years.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So this goes for like, I feel like this kind of started when I started dating again, like a while ago, and just going out and just to places I wasn't sure what was going to be there. I would never go starving. I was like, I should eat what I want to eat at home first, or eat like a half or 2/3 of whatever I want to eat and then go. And then I won't be shoving my face at this, event with all these chips because chips are what's in my blood.
Yes, I love that tip. And I think the other thing that I see frequently is people, quote unquote, saving up for an event. And that is so harmful in so many ways. And it is not going to benefit you at all. So, if you do have a dinner to go to, don't skip your breakfast and lunch and snack throughout the day. You can be more mindful throughout the day of what you're having, but just like Sophie said, actually going into a meal not hungry. And that doesn't mean you have to go into a meal full. That again doesn't mean you have to
Yeah.
skip the meal if there is food provided, but just curbing that appetite versus going starving is going to be so much more beneficial in the long run.
Yeah. And I feel like I used to always go starving because then I don't, when I go really hungry, my eyes are always bigger than my stomach. And then when I go where I'm like just medium, just the right amount, I'll just get a little bit. And then sometimes maybe I'll get a little bit of seconds later, but then I'm just not like filling up my plate, like overloading my plate.
I love, love, love that tip. Yeah. So just being mindful of hunger levels. I think that's the big takeaway is just being mindful of hunger levels going into things as well.
So let's talk about alcohol.
I love this conversation.
Oh, yeah. What do you think, Chelsea?
Well, let's just start off by saying, which everyone's going to have their different opinion. I do not tell anybody to not drink alcohol. Of course, everyone has their own personal preference if they would like to or not, but this conversation is not going to be about like, don't drink it, it's horrible for you, so on and so forth. If you guys want to know more about that, you can listen to our alcohol podcast that we have out. But let's take a second since we're talking about summer and kind of talk about if you're not drinking, totally fine. You can have fun without alcohol, adding in seltzer waters, sparkling waters, throwing in things in like wine glasses with fresh fruit can be really fun. So there's definitely fun ways to feel like you're being a part of the party without including alcohol, but there's also safe ways to include alcohol as well. So let's just talk about some tips with it. Sophie, do you have any specific questions that we should talk about or any topics around alcohol?
I feel that we should just talk about how people don't eat and they kind of just have a liquid calorie day, if you know what I'm saying.
Aha. Yes, I do know what you're saying. Yeah. So, kind of like we were talking about with food, is thinking about the same thing with alcohol. Alcohol calories are not the same as food calories in the sense that the way our body processes them and the nutrients that you're getting from them are completely different. So, again, I know we always hear the terms like empty calories and things along those lines, but you should also never, 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 never try to save up your calories so you can drink them then from alcohol because your body isn't even utilizing those calories the same as they would be from food. So it's not really benefiting you to not eat anything and then try to save up all of your calories for the day so you can go day drinking. The other thing that I unfortunately see pretty commonly with specifically day drinking or just drinking all day and not having any food is then that leading to binges later on, whether that be binges later on that day or evening or binges the following day or leading into very poor habits the following week. So, just something to keep in mind. There is a safe and healthy and balanced way to include alcohol, still go out and have fun, but being mindful with food and consuming food around alcohol, also still focusing on hydration. When I lived in Chicago and lived in an apartment with a pool, I saw it so frequently that people would just drink their beverages, alcoholic beverages, all day at the pool in the hot sun and not have one sip of water. And please, if you're going to drink alcohol, please stay hydrated.
Yes. I do want to mention that my client Piper, who's a wonderful doctor, talks about what happens when you don't eat and you just drink. I remember being in a sorority in college and girls just skipping meals to drink. And yeah, it ain't cute.
This is going to get a little bit off topic, but I want to mention it just really quick because a lot of times I know it can come across bold and not really even harsh, but just like we hear these things in the world so much of like, don't do this and don't do this. And you guys know by now that Sophie and I are all about the why. And again, like this conversation isn't about alcohol itself, but I do think it's important to understand like, okay, well, we're telling you to try to stay hydrated and try to eat something if you're drinking, and there is a safe way to balance it out. But I think it's hard to understand the why behind that because we can't see what's going on in the inside of our body. And although I think all of us know that too much alcohol is not good for the inside of our system, we also don't think about some of those basic things like how drinking on an empty stomach can affect things like gut health. Some of these small topics can, over time, doing them over and over and over again, can cause things like hormone imbalance and gut imbalance and that type of thing. So I think sometimes it's hard to visually understand because we can't see our gut, we can't see our hormones, we can't see our organs. So it's sometimes a harder conversation to have. And again, we won't go into a ton of detail today, but there is a rhyme or reason and lots of science and lots of research behind these things that we're recommending. It's not just coming down to, oh, because it's too many calories or, oh, because you're going to store fat or anything like that. There's a lot of more biological things that are happening on the inside too. And if the inside of your body doesn't work well, you're not going to see the results on the outside.
Oh, damn.
Just had to say that.
Well, you don't want to build a house on a crappy foundation.
Very true. Let's talk about exercise a little bit. Is there anything you kind of gave a couple of tips at the beginning, but just from like a movement standpoint that can help individuals feel good during the summer?
Yeah. So something I actually thought of this morning with the really nice weather is maybe instead of Ubering, see if you can walk somewhere. Like if it's under 2 miles, see if you can walk safely to where you want to go and just get more steps in general is I think a great tip. And then obviously like Uber home, whatever. And then being out and about more, I see so many people running, just which is great. But I feel as though so many people just go 0 to 100 and they're like, oh my God, it's nice out. I'm going to run 5 miles, which one of my clients that is newer, she's a pre-postnatal client, she's post. And she went on like a 3 mile run and then she walked like 3 miles in the same day. And she was getting like plantar fasciitis pain. And I was like, yeah, lady, you can't just go out there like that all wild. So just a reminder to stay calm, gradually build up your miles and time on your feet. Technically, you're not supposed to really increase miles more than 5 to 10%, depending on the week and where you are in your like training. If you are training for anything, like no major jumps. Think of like one variable at a time, either increasing your distance or increasing how quickly you're running, like 8-minute mile versus 30-minute mile. Like do one thing at a time.
That is such helpful information because you're exactly right. When I lived in Chicago, my apartment was right by the water, and like everybody on the lakefront, of course, runs. Yep. And it was just like day and night seeing you know what I'm talking about. Like you hit a point in Chicago where it's like 40 degrees and then the next day it's 70 degrees and like every single person is out on the lakefront running. Yes. I was one of those people, so I can relate to this. So this information is super helpful because I was definitely one of those people who would like not run all winter. And then like the second it would get nice out, being like, oh yeah, I can go on this, long run. And it's not good at all
No.
for your body. So Yeah, I love that you said that because I think that's really helpful. And I think how you broke it down is helpful too, just to say, like, again, of course, you can run and progress and work your way up, but not having that all or nothing mindset, both with food and exercise.
Yeah, like another thing, basically, if you are more of like an intense runner training for the marathon, 80% of your weekly mileage is supposed to be like base miles. Like you're not supposed to be doing workouts, fartlegs, intervals like every time you run. You should not be like your heart rate should not be 200 every time you're going on a run. Like you should do the slow, steady state aerobic runs where your heart rate, it totally depends on the person, I would say is around 130 to 150 is like where you're actually working on heart health. And I don't know, we can talk about it a whole nother time, but just be mindful, change up how you're running, and don't kill yourself every time, please, for my sake.
Yeah, that's really helpful information. And I liked how you even said just like walking too and walking to places. Unfortunately, where I live, nothing is walkable now, suburb life. But if you're not walking places, take your dog for walks in the morning. Or, if you're at the grocery store, I know this is like such an old tip, but it's still helpful, is like park your car far away. Those little things that it can make a difference keeping your body moving and blood flowing and all of that type of stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
Let's take the last couple of minutes and talk about the food for thought. Take a step back to what we talked about in the beginning and think about your goals for the summer. Think about what you have accomplished so far in 2022 and praise yourself for that first, even if it's the smallest goal accomplished. That's number one. And then number two is think about where you would like to go for the rest of the year. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be weight related or anything like that. Just think about your health habits overall and make sure that you are relating that to your lifestyle at this point. So let's take, for example, you do want to change your body composition, but you have a lot going on this summer. It's okay to take a pause and just focus on not regressing, just maintaining your habits, maintaining everything that you have accomplished so far. And then when things slow down a little bit in the fall, increasing whatever that is for you. So looking at your schedule, looking at your lifestyle, and reevaluating your goals for this summer.
Absolutely love that.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and have a good rest of the day.
Bye, everybody.